Good afternoon. On the agenda it says NDA session. That's a bit overrated. I submitted my session 1.5 months ago, and I wasn't allowed to tell what it was about, so I told Alex it's NDA, so I'll tell you later. But you know the agenda of Alex, it never changes, and I wasn't on the agenda until this morning. But I will tell you later what that's all about.
That's the program. That's how it works.
That's how the agenda works.
That's what they told me.
Okay. Well, my name is Ingmar Vrij. I'm from the Netherlands. I'm a senior consultant for Pepperbyte, and I work for Dynamic as well as a trainer. We sell Dynamic Load Chain, so I'm the trainer for Dynamic Load Chain. You can find me on Twitter, Ingmar Vrij, or my website. First, small warning. I have to do a small introduction to what I'm going to tell later, so I might sound like Captain Obvious. So bear with me. I'll
Captain Obvious t-shirt.
Yeah, maybe for next time. Instead of Sendak, I want the Captain Obvious t-shirt. Yeah, good idea. Maybe you're familiar with it. I guess you are. The client-server model, as defined by Gartner a while back. On the right side, the fat client. On the left side, the thin client. The fat client has data on it, and application logic and presentation, and the data is only on the server. And if you move to the left, more and more tasks are moved to the server. And presentation is only done by the thin client. So, distributed application, as we know it in server-based computing, VDI, separation of presentation and application logic and data. Which means we require a remote protocol like Citrix ICA, Microsoft RDP, or whatever. We need a remote protocol to transfer the data. Which is, with Citrix ICA, from the client to the server, mouse, keyboard, sound wave, microphone, and the output is video, audio, whatever. And it all travels through the network. So we require bandwidth, and we are vulnerable to latency. So when we say you require bandwidth, I want to know, I wonder, how much bandwidth, and for what? And when we say vulnerable to latency, I wonder, what is the effective latency, and how much latency? And the answer is that we're always telling, it depends. Sure, it depends. It always depends. Depends on what? Depends on what applications are we using. So, are we using a terminal emulator? Are we using Flash videos? Are we using just Office? It all depends on the application and how we're using that application. It depends on how dynamic the user is. If the user is lunching for an hour and having meetings in a day, then the average bandwidth will lower. In fact, if we read the white papers at Citrix, and I've downloaded a few, they're always suggesting there are normal users working with Office, PDF, playing a Flash video, and they are lunching for an hour, having 2 meetings in a day. So the average bandwidth of the day is 50 kilobits, roughly. But are your users the same? That's not always true. And it depends on the session properties.
Also, the average is really important there, because they are saying it's average, average on the whole day. So you don't know about the peaks and how to handle peaks.
Yeah, and especially when the more idle time you're taking, as in lunching or meetings, the average is more about the idle times than about the usage. So it makes sense that you're using it to compare with different results. But it's not really useful for us, not for me.
Yes, if you have an average like this, the reality is just like this.
Yeah,
you need to take care of
the average. Absolutely. So, and of course, session properties. Are you connecting with 1024 by 768 or by 1600 by 1200, 16 bits per pixels, etc., etc. It depends how much bandwidth you need. And I was looking for a benchmark. Thanks, man. That good. All benchmark sucks, but I was looking for one. I was looking for one, so just I could get a clue of how much bandwidth do I really need, roughly. It's always an estimate, roughly. There wasn't one. So what I was looking for was a benchmark which had predefined workloads like using a PDF document. How much bandwidth would I roughly need when I'm using a PDF document? Or office applications, or browsing the internet, whether it's static or a dynamic page, or playing a video. And as a benchmark, I don't want to use it to be dynamic. I want it to be completely static. It's always the same. And when I talk about session properties, well, a few examples. These are all session properties we can set depending on the customer, their wishes, and how they want to use it, and how we think we should use it with HX flash acceleration, or progressive compression, or adaptive compression we're using now. So, meters weten, we say in the Netherlands, or the numbers tell the tale. Why don't I just run some tests and then I'll know that with the configuration you just saw, that were roughly 90,000 tests. Running a test once doesn't give you a good answer, so I needed to run the test 3 times at least to get an average, which took 217,000 tests. Each test took me roughly 10 minutes, so all in all, if I wanted to execute all that, I needed 5 years of testing.
And it's only for 3 tests.
Sorry?
Only for 3 tests.
That's for all the configurations, all the possible configurations, running 3 times.
3 tests.
Each test 3 times. So
Scientists say you need to run it for 10 times and then to 100 to be able to get some value in it. Yes.
Yeah.
And to be able to say, it's true.
Yeah, yeah, to get the acceptable answer.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I didn't do that. I haven't started it 5 years ago. But what I did do is I created an environment, completely isolated, and I automated all things I can automate. So I've got a SQL database with all configurations in it. I created a PowerShell script that sets the ICA settings, sets power, the ZNAP policies, the WAN characteristics, and I did some tests, and we created the Bandwidth Matrix. Today we're releasing a website which has all those values and results, because we did all those tests. And the website is just a simple website showing us how many kilobits do I need when I'm using Office applications or a PDF, or when I'm playing a video with these session properties. Now what happens if I change it to my configuration and I'm using these applications with these session properties? What are the results then? I found it very interesting. So I can see what happens if I'm changing from 60 bits per pixel to 24. And not just, well, it's probably more. I want to know how much more. Or when I enable HX flash acceleration, what is the effect on the bandwidth? So that's why I created it. And it is an initiative, a joint operation for my company where I work, Pepperbyte, as a consultancy partner company, and Dynamic West, the Logen, so we needed that tool to automate all the tests. We did it because our customers asked us, how much bandwidth do we need? And we were saying, it depends. As we all do, probably. Or we would say, 15 kilobits per second per user, that's roughly practical. So that's why we did this, just for ourselves. So we wanted to know, can give our customers a good answer. And we can share it as well. So we created a website and it's free for everyone to access. So when I created it, characteristics of a benchmark, I wanted to be repeatable and get the same result. Okay, I should have done 100 or 1,000 times, but we did it 3 times. But there are some things I needed to make sure. So I created an isolated environment. My Visio isn't that good, but this is the drawing of my environment. It's completely isolated from the internet, except this part, which is my management LAN. My test always goes through the red zone. There's no switching between direct cables. It's completely isolated. There are no external factors influencing my results. So if I run the test 3 times, I get 3 times the result. Between each test, there's a settling time. So it waits 5 seconds, does nothing, doesn't even take it in its calculations. It's all there, it's gone. So I'm sure that when I just open a PDF and I'm going to Office, it's all gone. I won't measure it. Idle times are all static. Like I said, there's no dynamic user. It's just normal idle times. The time between opening a file and doing something is 2 seconds, 2 seconds. And I've disabled the bitmap disk cache from Citrix, the ICA client. Because otherwise, if we run a test twice, it's already cached. And there's no network usage. So it's disabled. The same goes for the internet cache. When you have HH flash acceleration enabled, it downloads the file on the client, puts it in the temporary internet files, and it's cached. So the second time you run it, there's no bandwidth consumption. And since I'm doing it 3 times, I will get a third of the results. And the burst, or the peak, it's an average, and there's a peak. I'm always taking 95th percentile of the results. So not the peak, I'm topping off the 5% results, throw it away, and that's the burst result I'm taking. So this were my assumptions.
How did you do the test? For example, Office, is it just text or is it also pictures?
Also pictures, yeah. Okay. On the website, we now only got the description in text of what we're doing, but we're going to add video of the exact test with it. There's text, there are images in it, it's all randomized text, Lorem Ipsum text, and images from internet which has no rights, or I can just freely use. So I try to. It's always, it's never a real usage or no a real user, but it's a.
Yes, but at least you have some middle time, settle time. If you look at the Citrix default load testing tests, that's just not a user, that's Superman. You know, they are tapping so fast.
Oh no,
for example.
It isn't really fast. It's acting like a normal user. So if you look at the times, the way it scrolls or it opens a file, there's always a time in between. It always thinks for like 500 milliseconds between each scroll.
Okay. Because if you take Citrix tests, just have Word taking 3% of CPU per user.
Yeah.
Because they are working so fast.
Yeah. Adobe PDF does use that much CPU if you scroll down, but that's just Adobe. Yeah. Well, I have some results which I found interesting from these tests. And this is my basic setup, my basic configuration. So a normal user connect with 1280, 60 megs per pixel, basic encryption, data compression enabled, and no session reliability. So just port 4094. I wonder, first of all, for link, how much bandwidth would it use as in audio? And another thing is, I always used to say to my clients, to my customers, you shouldn't listen to the radio on your Zen app session because it takes way too much resources. How much? I don't know. Really. I never measured it, and now we have it. If we look at the spoken text, is just a male voice speaking something. And I try to simulate a link conversation. In low quality, it only uses 32 kilobits, not bytes, but real kilobits. And if we put it to medium, it's 40. Hardly anything. If you put it to high quality, it doubles. And you would say that that's pretty much. It averages like 69 kilobits per second, and the burst is, or the peak is 100.
But we can notice that it's Citrix figures.
It's Citrix figures?
Yes.
Yeah, the 8 kilobit.
For the 98, it's about what they are saying for high quality.
Yeah.
In Xenap, starting Xenap 6.
Mm-hmm.
For the low quality, they are saying it's lower.
Yeah.
It's
and
15.
it is.
No, but they are saying it's 15 or something
15?
like that. Yes.
Okay, it's way much more.
But for the 96 is.
That's what they said.
That's what I've seen. Yes.
Okay. Well, I didn't know, but now I do. For music, so this is really just a male voice, and this is really music just playing with a media player. We use the exact same bandwidth, low, medium, except for high. So it seems like when you put it on low, they really are constraining it to 32 kilobits, and that's the max. Medium is constrained, and for high, they just set it open and use all the bandwidth they need, which is in peak 128 kilobits.
The audio is spoken, it's not done through link, just
it's an audio file. Yeah.
Full duplex.
Full duplex? No, it's just
One way.
Yeah, there's not so much speaking, because it's only the byte received.
Because if you put it in duplex, it will be double.
Yeah, but it's downstream and upstream. So the downstream will remain the same.
I'm wondering if link would also have that.
But you're right, if you are using link, you also need to have bandwidth going to the server.
It's not supported.
Oh, it's not supported.
That's
Yeah.
not that
Not
bad.
yet.
Optimization type. I'm done talking over.
Is it there already?
No,
Ah.
it's a closed peak.
The website.
Sorry?
The website is up.
Yeah. It's supposed to be up. Oh, good.
It is.
It is. Okay, cool. So, I know what glossy compression is and where it's for. And I don't want to focus on image quality or what is good, what's bad, when is good user experience and other videos and tests. And in fact, Simon Brentford is working on a benchmark to look at the quality of remote protocols. I don't want to discuss that. I just want to look at the bandwidth usage when you're using lossy compression. And when using lossy compression, we're losing bits, but it increases the speed. And by default, it's on medium quality. So in these tests, this is the bandwidth usage we're using. And you can see this already for a PowerPoint, more than 700 kilobits. So the audio is hardly anything. On average, it uses almost a megabyte. Almost. So the 50 kilobits per second, I wouldn't calculate with that. That is, if it's constantly working. Assuming your users are always working, this is the bandwidth. You're roughly assuming. If we did set the loss compression to high, you see it's just a slight increase or a decrease in bandwidth usage. So you don't really gain all that much. It's just a few percent.
And did you test with heavy white one?
Wait.
Heavy white compression. Did you also?
Nothing. This is with the default configuration, so heavyweight compression is disabled.
Okay.
If you would disable loss compression completely,
Yes.
you can see that it
But
decreases a
so
lot.
heavy white is not enabled.
No, not yet.
Okay.
No, not yet. Not in this one.
Okay.
I just wanted to see what's the difference between none, medium, high, etc. So the difference between high and medium isn't that much. But if you would disable it and give your users the best quality, because there's no losses, you really need a lot more bandwidth. It really increases. So by default, it is a good configuration. And it's by choice for you if you want to enable it or not. Do you want lossless images, or do you want them to have the full image? And you do need a lot more bandwidth. So overall, you can say that high and medium, there is a small difference. When you disable it, you need more bandwidth. Now, how much? Roughly this. So for your environment, if you want to configure your environment or want to design your environment, you can look here and say, okay, if the customer wants no lossless, lossy compression, not lossless, this is what you need.
Interesting with the high compression that they sometimes use more bandwidth than medium.
Yeah, sometimes it does. Yeah, I've learned each result is a result, and I have more of those coming where you would say didn't expect it. And this is on a LAN environment. That was not a WAN environment.
Yes, and also that's not the real bandwidth consumption. That you are giving us a really nice insight on the peaks, but when you will have the cache enabled and all that kind of things,
there is an opportunity that it will get less if you're reusing the same images.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's not a small opportunity. That's a really important opportunity. Moreover, if you did some tuning to the ICA templates, saying I want persistent cache or something, so it's really working well. The Citrix caching system is really working well because it was what made the difference between Citrix and VMware. And VMware added a new cache system, and now View 5 is really better because of the caching system. But I agree, we did never add such results, but it would be nice to do them even 3 or 4 times with the cache options enabled.
So the disk cache enabled.
Yes, and I have the burst on one side without caching, and I have the cache value.
We
just
can do that.
if you
but the same results with heavyweight compression, extra color compression. What's the name? We're running those tests as well because it all has different effects. But here we can see the result of the difference between those configurations.
Yes.
In fact, this is just the average, and this is the peak. So in peak, the burst without any lossy compression, it's huge.
Yes.
So it's something to think about when you're disabling lossy compression.
I would say what Citrix is saying is that there are plenty of settings like lossy compression, like heavy white compression.
Mm-hmm.
You had a warning about the CPU consumption about it. And what they are saying is that these settings are disabled by default just because they have been added one by one. So they did not want to change anything. So that's why they started to create some policy templates. But to get the best performance, you are supposed to enable them one by one.
Is it performance and image quality or performance on CPU usage? But
Yes, what I am doing actually is that my integration product is creating default policies, locking down completely the farm, so enabling lossy compression with medium option. And then
this is default medium.
And then if I want more things for specific user groups, then I will enable this one by one.
Just to see what you're saying.
Just like a firewall, the default policies are just there to lock down and enable heavy white compression.
Yeah.
And if some users complain about quality, and it's not really visible on a Word document or something, if it's medium, then I enable it for them.
Yeah. Okay. I have some more results. What if I will play a video? And I play this video, the only one which does have some copyright. What would happen if I will play it with or without HX Flash enabled? Of course, we know that the image quality is way much higher when you have HX Flash enabled. But what is it in bandwidth consumption? It has an effect as well. With HX Flash disabled, playing a video in standard definition or high definition, there's almost no difference. 1 megabyte in a window, which is 300 by 400. So same as, let's say, YouTube. In a windowed frame, a megabyte per user. If you play it on a full screen, 1280 by 1024, 6 megabytes or 7 megabytes for the same video. Now, if I enable flash acceleration, it changes. 360 video is always 2.5 megabytes, which is more. But it doesn't matter if it's windowed or full screen, because the complete video is downloaded to the client and then played. And the high definition video is always 7 megabytes. So it requires way much more bandwidth. That's too much time, 90 minutes. So, the results are you need way much more bandwidth with HX Flash enabled, but the quality is way much higher. So it's a trade-off. However, when I play this on a WAN connection, half a megabyte, 50 millisecond latency, except that the video isn't really playing that well because it's a WAN connection, there isn't that much difference. But it doesn't consume the complete bandwidth either. It just uses 384 roughly. I'm going a bit fast because I have 5 minutes left from Alex. I started later, Alex. I went 3 minutes.
That's why I'm 10 minutes late.
Oh. By default, lossy of our progressive compression level is disabled. But since the last service pack, we have moving image compression or adaptive display. So by default, these are the dynamic workloads I've done. So scrolling to a PDF or zooming in, an internet page with flash content, playing videos. This is the bandwidth we need. Sorry, this with adaptive and progressive display disabled. So there's no optimization for moving images. We require almost a megabyte for video and almost 3/4 of a megabyte for power. If we enable adaptive display, which is enabled by default, it decreases a lot. So it's a good thing that it's enabled by default. You get the same result better quality and less bandwidth. If we set compression, progressive display to very high compression, which disables adaptive display, because it's the one or the other, you get almost the same result. In fact, on average, it's exactly the same bandwidth consumption. Would you put it to ultra high compression, which is a real funny name because you have very high and ultra high, and what's above that? There's no gain in performance or in bandwidth. So I don't see the use case of ultra high in LAN environment. But adaptive display does it very well, and it's very necessary. And the same on burst. In fact, ultra high compression, which you would expect to use less bandwidth, again uses more. So not all high compression features use less bandwidth. On a WAN environment, in bandwidth consumption, there is no gain in adaptive or progressive display. It roughly uses the same bandwidth. What you are gaining is an improved user experience, because the videos, the frames that are in queue are skipped. So in bandwidth, no gain, only in user experience. And the last one, what if we're going from 16 bits per pixel to 24? I expected, and this is the result I'm used to validate my results of the first test, that 24 bits per pixels use more bandwidth than 16 bits per pixels, because there is another bit of data. But it doesn't. So my test wasn't good. I expected the first time, so I did it again and then again and again. But each test, this was the result. In most scenarios, 16 bits per pixels use more bandwidth than 24. And I'm puzzled. I'm not sure why it is, but it's true. In a LAN environment. In a WAN environment with 512 kilobits.
Yes, something about 16-bit isn't real. It's some bits are thrown away, and something about that I don't know it exactly, but Guy explained it to me.
I'm really curious.
It's no real world.
That's what I also
no real
asked.
value. It's so maybe there's more load on it.
Okay. I'm going to search for it. But if I have to advise my customer to use either 16 or 24 bits per pixels, I'm changing it around. Go to 24 bits per pixels. Better quality, less bandwidth. And on a WAN, it's almost the same. There's not really a difference. So that was an eye-opener for me. Currently we're in beta, so we just released the website this morning. It isn't really finished. Not all tests are uploaded yet, so not all results you saw here are on the website. But we are still testing in the background. It's all automated, so while I'm here, it's still testing, and we're uploading each week. So more configurations, and we want to do more protocols. So we want to compare Citrix ICA versus RDP or PC over RDP. But it depends on what you or the community wants or the customer wants. Because each protocol requires thousands of tests, and each thousands of tests just delays the other results. So it depends on the feedback we're getting from you. What tests or what results do you want to see? So you can follow us on Twitter, the Bandwidth Matrix, or visit the website, and there's a feedback button. If you think it's interesting or not, let us know. If you want to do more tests or other tests or a different test, any feedback is welcome. Right on time. Pierre.
First, I would like to thank you because of all the work you have done to provide us lots of information, really important information.
Thank you.
So, the first thing. The second one is that our customers are using the figures they can find on the internet.
Yeah.
Now they can find 20 kilobytes per second, and that's it, and they will design the Citrix environment with 25. So it would be really nice to have something like with and without the cache, for example.
Oh yeah, I'm going to
not
add the feature.
to be just more realistic, because I think it's really good information on the burst and on what we need to download it then for the first execution or so. And then it would be nice to have some with cache enabled or persistent cache enabled. You can play on those settings.
The only difficult thing with that is that I'm influencing my own results.
Yes.
And it's very difficult to get that done. But I think it can be done just by clearing the cache for each test. So, yeah,
Yes.
I'll do. No problem.
Or just say, when you don't have the cache, it's a peak.
Yeah, it's all, not all peak. It's all, there are averages. And the peak, the burst result is the peak result.
Are there any plans to also include run optimizers?
Yeah.
Because that is really interesting.
Yeah. But we're not sure yet which one. Most obvious is put branch repeater in between and let's see what happens. Probably, yeah. But
Time.
you let us know. Well, time is one.
Yeah.
I've got this. All these results were in last week. So this is what I've got for now, and it's still running. But what you saw, all those tests running it 3 times, 10 minutes, 5 years. Not really true because I'm running multiple tests. But there's still time involved. So if I want to do more protocols, more configuration options, I want to do almost all options in the Xena policy. What happens if you set it? And if I'm going to add range repeater, that doubles the tests. But if you say, okay, this is a normal configuration for branch repeater, or we're not using branch repeater, we're using product X, and I'm really interested. If you send us the feedback, then we're willing to do a test. Absolutely.
Maybe you can standardize the tests, and some guys from us can do the testing.
You can, yeah.
If it's the same framework and it's portable, you can provide it, and it's not on the work.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. We're going to stop.
Offline, please discuss it offline. There is a master class.
I'll write a white paper, you can do it your own.
What's